Welcome to Trial by Wine. We take a closer look at crimes that highlight how fascinating humans can be. Schmidty, Swanny and Clarky visit crimes and run them through their jury of three, debating both sides of the case to agree an appropriate, if totally fictitious, sentence. Please be advised, Trial by Wine may include explicit or disturbing content and will include drunken rambling. Listener discretion is advised. All right, how are we?
Very well.
Yeah, very well,
Not
thank
too bad,
you.
thank you.
A bit of giggles just before we've gone on air, which is always fun.
I know, that's upped the mood, hasn't it? Yes.
Yes.
Oh, any news?
Any news? One of us three may have resigned today.
Oh, not from the podcast.
Not from the podcast. No.
Oh, no, from their
My
gainful
family are very
employment.
disappointed.
But you couldn't stand them any longer.
No, I know. So it's obviously not me, which leaves the other two.
It's not me. So
It's
it must be-
me!
It's Clarky!
Yay! Yeah, so
Congratulations. Yes,
Thanks.
that's good. That's, as you said earlier, been in the makings for a while, so good on you. And that will make your long holiday fabulous. But it also means you'll have a little bit more time to make sure that we've got plenty of shows for
Content.
when you're away. Yeah.
That's true. I can just pump them out.
Oh,
So
God,
to
that just
speak.
takes me back to what we were talking about pre-show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jizzies.
Anyway, so stop it. We're not covering that now. Swanny, any news from you?
No.
Mm-hmm.
No, I just feel like
That's
I've...
all right. I don't really have much news either. We recorded last, I think, on Sunday. So apart from working, I haven't got anything to say. So I'll just move straight on to I'm Schmidty.
I'm Swanny.
And I'm Clarky. And together we are...
Trial
by
Wine.
Resign. I mean, wine.
Yes.
Yes.
You can tell someone's very happy about that decision. And what are we drinking today?
Swanny, you know you want to.
I'm not on my rosé gift yet.
Okay.
Oh, Schmidty, don't. I still got to do
That's
stuff
all
tonight.
right. That's
But
all
if we
right.
record on the
Judge,
weekend,
judge,
I'll do
judge.
it. I was thinking.
Okay, I
I'm
won't
gonna-
judge. I won't judge.
So I'm just on my first.
Well, that
Take your
means,
over
as
day.
far as I'm concerned, we need to record on Sunday. That's that.
Fair enough.
She just promised that she would drink.
Okay,
She
I
said on the
do
weekend.
it before I go and do my
All right,
children's
Saturday
things.
then. Yeah, no, that's fine, Swanny. I understand entirely. And you boys, what are you drinking?
Well,
Well,
it's
we're having a
little
bit of a celebratory number. So
Oh,
this,
lovely.
this is a Feathertop 2015 Sparkling Shiraz. So Feathertop
yum.
are down in Porpunka, which is towards Bright, and they do lots of good wines, but this one is particularly lovely. It's very smooth, nice and bubbly,
Oh, I do like a sparkling
just what
Shiraz.
you want. Yeah. So cheers to that, everyone. And Schmidty.
Cheers. Well, I'm continuing the wintry drink theme. I went out and got myself a litre bottle of Baileys. So I'm having
you're
a
necking
cheeky
it?
Baileys. No, I'm not necking it. I'm sipping it delicately, and it's over ice, and it's just right for today's weather and the mood I'm in.
I just feel like when our listeners hear that you've just gone and bought a litre bottle of Baileys, they will all picture you necking it.
No,
Is
no,
a
no.
litre bottle of Bailey's pre-mixed?
No.
No, it's just Bailey's.
Enough
the
to
original.
make you
Yes.
sick.
Have you got that with milk in it?
No.
That's just Baileys and ice,
the,
is
The colour
Just a
is because of the
straw.
ice.
Oh,
yeah.
okay, right. No
I
worries.
put quite a lot of ice in, so there's a little bit of dilution.
Quite a lot of
happening.
Baileys is what you've got.
No, right.
Oh, yeah, grog monster.
not that we're judging.
I thought it was a milkshake, for God's sake.
All the
My
milkshake,
milkshake brings all the boys to the yard.
They're like, it's better than yours. Damn right.
Good chat. Let's move on.
Shall I tell you a story?
Oh, sorry.
Go on,
Could
man.
you? Yes.
There you go.
Well, we've had a few weeks off murder. It's almost like we all had a little unwritten thing that we had to have a little bit of a break.
Are you going to bring it back?
Shake it out.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We've had some scammers, some hoarders, and a wire-walking wanker, which is just my opinion,
Yeah.
of course.
Oh, little Phil, give him a break.
No,
Yeah,
still
with
not okay with
With
little
the
Phil.
smiling
No.
buildings. Goodness.
No, still not okay.
I'm surprised I remembered it. What was it, 3 days ago? I've normally
Yeah. You are in the zone. There's nothing getting
I'm
past
firing
you at the
today.
moment.
Oh my goodness, I've come back.
Yeah, no, still not loving him. Anyway, so I thought I might ease us back into the darker side of crime with this historic case which is super, super famous. But I do wonder whether
super famous.
It's super, well, it's really interesting because I thought it was super, super famous. And then a couple of people have crossed my path in the last couple of days while I've been working on it. And they've said, what are you doing? And I've told them the case and they go, what's that?
Never
and
heard
I
of
think,
They don't have an encyclopedic knowledge of all things murder like you do, darling.
Also, if it
The dark
happened in your bathroom
yeah, I know.
and you therefore know it well, it doesn't mean that everyone else knows it well.
No, look, it might be that it's super, super famous in America. The thing that caught my attention, or the bit that made me think it was worth telling it, was whether or not the story became bigger than the actual reality. Mm-hmm. So we'll see what you guys think. Of course, my sources are crimemuseum.com, Wikipedia, Britannica, for you, Swanny.
Thank you. Old school.
The Smithsonian.com.
Thank you again.
You're welcome.
Is Britannica new? Because I Googled something today and Britannica came up as well, and I've not had it before.
It doesn't always have enough in it for me to use it as a source.
And why is it Britannica.com and not Britannica.co.uk? Feels like Britannica is decidedly American, not
the Encyclopedia
UK.
Britannica.
Yeah, but it's
American,
.com.
No.
It's American.
Is it?
Isn't it? I always thought it was.
Well, it's got Britannica in it.
Oh, okay.
Gosh, they're tricksy, those people.
Trixie, yeah. Famous trials and the Centre for Rule of Law.org. So.
Ruleoflaw.org. We're a bit like that, aren't we?
Not really. We're the unrule of law. The year is 1892. It's a hot August in River Fall, Massachusetts. And what started like most other days certainly took a turn for the gruesome when, at 11:15 a.m. on the 4th of August, Lizzie Andrew Borden discovered her father dead on a couch in the living room.
Dun, dun, dun.
And it's not Jizzy Lizzie either.
Why would you say that?
You're so base, Caroline, honestly.
Because
where do you get this? Where does this come from?
You tricksters, just because this all came up before I press record.
Hook, line, and
you
sinker.
said,
Hey, Swanny.
isn't it a shame we're not talking about a Lizzie? Because it could have been Jizzy Lizzie. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe that they've psychically guessed I'm about to talk about a case with a woman called Lizzie.
Is it a whodunit? Sounds like a whodunit so far.
No, I think we know who done it.
Yeah,
I think we know who done it. But it is questionable. But Lizzie's stepmother, shortly after this, the Borden's maid Bridget.
Did Lizzie's stepmother do it and you just gave it away?
No. Oh my God, do you not know Lizzie Borden?
I don't, but I know the name.
I know Lizzie Birdsworth.
I know the name. It's going to come to me when you said Lizzie Borden.
I know Sally Boyden.
I'm going to, not Boyden, Borden.
Borden, sorry.
Did you never hear the rhyme? Lizzie Borden took an axe, gave her mother 40 whacks. When she saw what she had done, she gave her father 41.
No, but we never
You've never heard
we
that?
never did that
Never.
occupational violence course that you did.
That's
Oh,
three,
okay.
isn't it?
I can't get over how no one's heard of Lizzie Borden.
I know when you said Lizzie Borden, I thought, oh gosh, I'm supposed to know who this is because I'm pretty sure I recognise the name, but I don't know. I don't know it.
She gave her
Just know
mother
the
40
name.
whacks with an axe.
Shortly after this, the Bordens' maid Bridget, who they also called Maggie, found Lizzie's stepmother dead in the guest room upstairs. Both had been killed by blood.
When you say shortly, same day, not like 3 days later.
Okay, so at quarter past 11, Lizzie shouts out and says, Maggie, or Bridget, whatever her name is, Dad's been killed, come and help.
Yeah, right.
And then not long after that, they discover her stepmother.
Yeah, sorry, I was thinking shortly as in a couple of days later, not...
No, very, very shortly after.
Yeah, gotcha.
Both had been killed by blunt force trauma to the head, later believed to have been caused by a hatchet.
That's a coincidence.
Isn't it, though? I'll tell you what, anyone giving blunt force trauma to the head using a hatchet isn't using it properly.
They actually used the back of it, not the blade.
Yeah,
bit.
well,
Oh.
It works.
They did.
It works better if you use the hard bit.
The back
knife
bit. Yeah,
bit.
they did.
No, I mean...
Not the knife bit.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. If they use the knife bit, it'd just go... Funk.
No, they didn't. They smacked him over the head with the blunt end of it.
Maybe it was...
So they used the correct bit. So maybe you know a bit more about...
I'm wondering if... I'm saying I think they used the wrong bit. But maybe they were going to chop wooden piece of furniture, and as they lifted it over their head, they accidentally cracked people on the head. That would make perfect sense.
No. not 19 times.
Anyway.
Ouch.
Mm.
That escalated.
Yes,
Yeah.
I agree. Not 19 times. That blows my theory out of the water.
So Andrew Borden, Lizzie's father, was described as a dour, penny-pinching man, which allegedly caused his daughters Emma and Lizzie to argue with him a bit, usually about money. He was very wealthy, but that didn't stop him from being so tight with household expenditure that the family actually all became ill not long before the murder, as he insisted on them eating mutton soup, which was made from the leftover Sunday roast. He was killed, I think, on a Thursday, right? So they were eating soup that was on the stove for 4 days made of mutton, and they pretty much all just had salmonella or botulism, whatever you get from that.
Is that true that they would have that after 4 days?
Yeah, if it's not kept hot all the time to kill the germs, or if it's not heated to an adequate
Yeah, I would just say just
temperature
boil
to
it.
kill them.
Fine.
But remember, it was August. It was really, really hot. So they probably didn't want to have their oven on
It was probably
1,000
bubbling
degrees to
during the
Just
day,
boil.
wasn't it?
Oh.
horrible. Yeah.
Got that foamy
yeah.
stuff going on.
Just disgusting. And they only had an ice chest that, like it was 1892.
Yeah.
And the ice had already melted due to the extreme heat. So they had no means to really keep this soup from making them sick. So they were eating off lamb soup for several days. Or I say lamb, but tutus.
Mutton.
It was probably due to his childhood, which had been much the same. Whilst his parents had been quite wealthy, they had lived very modestly. And whilst his success had been through manufacturing, turns out he actually manufactured furniture and caskets. He was a funeral director. And later he went into property development, and I think he was on the board of a bank or something. He became like a big mover and shaker in town. He was very wealthy, very well respected. At the time of his death, his estate was worth nearly $10 million in today's money.
I
wow.
was going to say in 1892, 10 million. Oh.
No.
Yeah.
But the house had no internal plumbing, which he could have had. He just didn't see the point of spending any money on that sort of stuff. So Abby, his wife, second wife, who was stepmother to Lizzie and Emma. Whilst Lizzie and Emma said they had no issues with Abby, who they called Mrs. Borden, the maid Bridget said they rarely ate together, and others close to them didn't think they got on that well. They thought that she'd married Andrew for his money, and I hope that wasn't why she married him, because frankly he was tighter than a girdle on a Baptist minister's wife at an all-you-can-eat pancake breakfast.
That's a mouthful.
Thank you,
Is that
Blanche
yourself?
Devereaux. No, that's from the Golden Girls.
I love the Golden Girls and I love Blanche.
Yeah.
He was tighter than a girdle on a Baptist minister's wife at an all-you-can-eat pancake breakfast. Oh, it's hard to say.
That is a
Anyway.
mouthful.
Both Lizzie and Emma had religious upbringings. They were Protestants and attended the Central Congregational Church. Lizzie was particularly into the God stuff and was a Sunday school
The
teacher.
God stuff.
That's what they call it. That's
You're
the technical
speaking
name.
my language.
She also occupied herself being the secretary and treasurer for the Christian Endeavour Society and was part of the Women's Christian Temperance Union and the Ladies' Fruit and Flower Mission. She was a very well brought up.
Fruit
she
and
was a lady.
flowerist.
She was a lady.
Ladies for tea.
She was also pretty good with her hands, as she built a roost for pigeons in their barn, and apparently she quite liked fishing. But in the May of 1892, her father decided to kill the pigeons, either by wringing them by the neck or with a hatchet,
Ooh.
because he thought they were a magnet for local children who were hunting them, which is funny because I read that in one place and then somewhere else he thought they were attracting pests. So, local children, pests,
Vermin.
same.
I'll probably have the
Yeah,
same
vermin.
response.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Swanny. Yeah, vermin. A lot of them. Lizzie
the
was...
local children come. Oh, hang on, they're mine. That'd be Swanny.
Oh.
I can't lock them out. Damn it!
Can't wring their necks either or hit them with a hatchet. Lizzie supposed... Well, that's what he did with the pigeons, was the point.
One of my children at camp and I'm missing him. I don't know. I've come over all caring.
Separation
Yeah,
anxiety.
my God, you've
I know.
changed.
I know. Crazy.
So Lizzie's supposed to have been pretty upset about her father allegedly killing these pigeons that she'd built a roost for, but there wasn't really any
You wouldn't
evidence of that
bludgeon
having
him
happened.
19 times over pigeons, would you?
I think he was 11 times. The
Oh, was that
the
all?
stepmother was 17 or 19. I keep reading different accounts. They did have a falling out in 1892, and Lizzie and Emma took off to New Bedford for a holiday, in inverted commas. A week before the murders, they came back to Fall River, and Lizzie decided to stay away for a few days at a local rooming house. So she wasn't quite ready to go home.
Why? Because was that directly after they'd had the falling out? Why would she not be ready to go home?
There was tension building in the house and had been building for a while.
Okay.
And one of the reasons for the tension was old mate Andrew was gifting real estate to members of Abby's family, so his new wife's family, right? Which really annoyed his two spinster daughters. After Abby's sister was gifted a house, they demanded that they get the house that they'd lived in until their mother had passed away as a rental property. Andrew, now this bit, I don't understand any of this, right? But Andrew apparently sold the house to them for $1, which was around $37 in today's money. And then he bought it back off them for $5,000, which is more like, I've written $165,000.
Is that a tax avoidance scheme?
5,000 times 37. Well, maybe it could be a tax issue. It might have been. It wasn't referenced anywhere to say, this made sense, or because maybe it was a benefit he couldn't gift it as an inheritance or something, because there would have been a tax associated. So he sold it for nothing and then bought it back off them. Yeah, you're probably right. Thank you for that. That was a very sensible response.
That's weird.
Anyway, I know. I didn't understand it. I was like, why would they do that?
I think that's the first time you've thanked me for a sensible response in 80 episodes.
87, to be precise.
Case in point.
Uncle John Morse, who was their mum's brother, so I think the mother's name was Sarah. Their mother's name was Sarah, the first wife. He visited the house on August the 3rd to chat business with Andrew. Now, he goes around talking about how he's really close with his nieces and he went out of his way to have this relationship with them. But in reality, I think he only started to visit them a couple of years prior. Abby married Andrew when Lizzie was 11, and I think Emma was 17. At this point, Lizzie's 29. So he's only shown up, this uncle's only shown up in the last few years. There's been this huge gap in between that where he's shown no interest in them. But he goes around talking about how he's, really, really close with his nieces. So he shows up with this idea of, I'm going to go see my nieces, but really he's there to talk to Andrew because Andrew's a businessman, he's successful and he's wealthy. John was a farmer, by the way, and from everything I've read about him, he wasn't badly off himself. He was okay. So it's suggested that these discussions included Andrew's plan for his will and or property transfers, which could have annoyed the ladies even more. So if he's talking about transferring money out further to other people, because this is their inheritance. I think that's the way they're seeing it. This is our money. Also, everyone had the literal and figurative shits thanks to that mutton soup. So it wasn't the greatest mood in the house.
Oh, nice.
Well played, well played.
The next morning, John had breakfast with Andrew. So this is on the 4th of August. He had breakfast with Andrew, Abby, Lizzie and Bridget. And then he chatted with he went off and had a chat with Andrew in the sitting room for about an hour. Now, Emma wasn't there because Emma had gone to, I think it's called Fairhaven, a place about 25 k's away. And I think she'd gone the day before, I'm not really sure. So, but she wasn't there anyway. Then John went off, so Uncle John went off to buy some oxen and to see another niece of his in Fall River, planning to get back to the Borden house around lunchtime. So he's just out for a few hours to catch up with other family members,
and buy some oxen.
And buy some oxen, as you do.
Hopefully not in that order. If you go and get the oxen and then take them to visit family members.
To someone else's garden. Would you mind if I just pop my oxen in your front yard for a little while?
That would be fine.
They don't eat much.
I have a feeling that when you buy the oxen, and you would know better than I because you guys have got a little farm, but I'm pretty sure when you buy them, you're not expected to just take them, walk them down the street the minute you get them.
Let's hope so.
So Andrew, Dad, took off for his morning walk, which was pretty normal. So apparently he did that quite regularly. Abby went upstairs to tidy the guest bedroom, which is where John had been sleeping, and to make his bed. While she was making the bed, someone entered the room and struck her on the side of the head, which caused her to turn and fall face down on the floor. Her attacker then hit her 17 times on the back of the head, killing her.
Ouch.
That'll do it.
Do you need to do it that many times?
Well, it does make it sound personal and quite horrific, doesn't it?
And squashed and messy.
It wasn't that bad. Like, I'm sure part of her skull was caved in, but it wasn't like there's a photo of the back of her head and you can see indentations from where it's hit her, but it's not Yeah, no, but it's not Swanny. It's not like because
Was it a small person who did it, or was it a small hatchet?
it's 1852, right? Sorry, 1892. So they have no real forensics. So there's no one talks about blood spatter. No one talks about the stuff that we look at
The
now.
stuff
we think
that you
about
talk
now.
about with Tony
Yeah.
overnight,
Yeah.
blood splatter. Yeah,
Spatter.
Oh, sorry.
God, Swanny.
I was actually looking up what an axe wound would look like, and if you Google that, that's stuff you can't unsee. But I was looking at that because I was trying to understand what the blood spatter of an axe wound would be. Because interestingly, and I'll probably talk about it later, there's very little blood around these.
They're like
corpses.
little taps, aren't they? Not blows
There's
with the hatchet.
So this, because it was with the blunt end of it, and it wasn't with the knifey end or the cutting end.
I think knifey's called. I think that's the correct terminology.
Yeah, that's exactly the knifey end. Yeah.
The blade.
I've definitely seen that before.
Particularly for Abby, I think that might be why the predominant blood is pooled around her. So, she's had she has a gash, I think, on the side of the head, but I think most of it's just sort of.
I think you need to go retrain. You've definitely.
So do
got,
I.
I think you've
Sometimes
got to
I
do
think I
this. I think you should be
should,
a forensic scientist. You should do it.
So when Andrew got back from his walk at about 10:30 a.m., he couldn't get in the front door, so he had to knock, and I assume it's because they were locked. Bridget tried to open the door, but it was jammed. While she didn't see Lizzie, she said she had heard her laugh from the top of the stairs. So that's important, right?
So Lizzie's with him. Is that what you mean? Or Lizzie's inside?
No, so Lizzie is
Jizzy.
Lizzie is inside the house, and if you imagine like most properties, the stairs lead down to the front door.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So where Bridget is at the where the front door is, and she's trying to open the door.
Yeah.
Behind her and up,
Right.
she believes that she hears Lizzie laughing. I think Lizzie's laughing because she's like, "Oh, I can't get the door open," or something.
Right.
Like,
So she hears
laughing
Lizzie
at
at
her.
the top of the stairs laughing, not she's at the top of the stairs and hears Lizzie laughing.
She thinks she hears Lizzie. Andrew, when he gets in the house, asks Lizzie where Abby is, right? The stepmom. And she said, "Oh, we had a message from a sick friend who asked her to visit, so that's where she was." It just has that, a little messenger comes.
Yeah, they
and
sent
says,
a pigeon.
Mrs. Blah Blah's not well. Can you come and see her? And then you get a little basket and off you go. It's all very Jane Austen in my mind, although it's Victorian, but yeah. Apparently that's where Abby had gone. So Bridget then says she removed Andrew's boots because he's gone in to sit down in the sitting room and help him into his slippers before he lay down on the couch for a nap at 10:30. I mean, lazy. All he's done is he's got up, he's had breakfast, he's gone for a walk, and now he's having a nap. Mind you, he was, I think, 73.
Could also be
maybe that's
hungover.
fair. Yeah, maybe.
That'll be it.
That'll be it.
Well, he'd had a hard morning of walking. Although in the crime scene photos, Andrew is wearing his boots.
Ooh.
Bum, bum, bum.
Oh, pants on fire.
That's her recollection.
Those boots were made for walking.
Yeah. Now, Bridget wasn't feeling very well. I'm pretty sure partly because she had the shits from the mutton soup. But also it was very hot, and she'd been made to go and clean all the windows downstairs that morning.
Really?
So I think she had a bit of a headache.
Really,
It wasn't
Belle?
great.
Who made her?
Well, she was told to do it by either Abby or Lizzie, right? She goes up to her room on the 3rd floor for a lie down because she's not feeling great.
Yeah.
And at 11:10, she hears Lizzie call out, "Maggie, come quick! Father's dead. Somebody came in and killed him."
Oh,
Yeah, I'll be right. I'll be right down. Hang on.
Not again.
Seriously.
not that
I only
again.
just got off to sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, so Andrew was slumped on the couch in the downstairs sitting room, struck 10 or 11 times with a hatchet-like weapon in the face.
Oh,
Ouch.
Yeah, and I don't know if I go into detail anywhere else in this, but it was bad. I think he might have been hit with the blade of the hatchet because I believe one of his eyes was cut in
The
half
knifey
or
bit?
out or something.
Oh,
The
no.
knifey bit.
dear.
Like it was real messy. It was nasty, right? And he was unrecognisable pretty much face-wise. Lizzie sent Bridget for the doctor. Not quite sure why she would bother, apart from to, I suppose, say that he was dead.
And the doctor said no more monkeys jumping on the bed.
The doctor was just across the road, I think, or very close.
Oh.
And so Dr. Bowen arrives, and at that point, Andrew's wounds were still bleeding. That's how fresh the attack was.
Right, wow.
And he pronounced Andrew dead. So the police were called and they went looking for, but at this point in time, remember, no one's found Abby. Abby's still upstairs, just
Yeah, right.
FYI.
Yeah, okay.
So all we've seen now is Andrew's dead and we've called the doctor. Police were called looking for a sign of an intruder, but as the doors and windows were locked, because Andrew couldn't get in and, whatever, so they didn't find any. They looked for the murder weapon and found 2 hatchets, an axe and the head of a hatchet. So 3 hatchets, really, and a broken handle. And look, all the hatchets aren't that weird. At that period of time, they were cutting wood. They were using them to, they were using the wood for the stoves.
Your
and the
own
heating
personal
and all the rest of
hatchet.
It wasn't weird to have your own personal hatchet.
Yeah.
It might be considered a bit odder now, but it wasn't at
The
the
way
time.
they used it might be considered less common.
And there was no blood on any of these. There was very little blood anywhere other than on the victims, as I said. And I just think, given the ferocity of the attacks, you'd expect to see a lot more blood spatter. But that's just me.
The Abby attack doesn't sound ferocious.
It certainly killed her, but you could be right. It could be like one blow killed her. The first, like smacking around the side of the head killed her, and the rest were just less deep or something. Yeah,
Drumming.
it was never suggested. But honestly, I wonder even if they were killed where they were found.
Yeah, right.
There was so little blood around them.
Okay, gotcha. Yep.
But no one's ever suggested that. That's just my complete making shit upness. And there wasn't really much in the way of forensics. It was all very rudimentary.
Swanny, thank you for letting that go. Making shit upness.
Yeah.
I missed
Just
it,
like
sorry.
that.
Knifey end and making shit upness. Is that the bit you got from Britannica.com?
You love the way I turn the King's English, don't you?
Yeah.
Oh, I like what you did there.
I do. Wow, modern. Or particularly historic on one.
Well, by the time this goes live, it will be.
Yeah.
The crime scene also was totally trashed because journalists and curious neighbours wandered in to take a look.
What?
Oh, of course they did.
Every man and his dog came in to have a little look-see, right?
What's this? What's happened here?
What's going on?
What's going on?
Oh, he's not looking very happy today.
Got a split headache.
He did, don't you worry. Also, Lizzie, when the police were talking to her, said she felt a bit crook. So they didn't really search her or hassle her too much. So she had a fair amount of time between the first discovery of the murders and between her being charged to have probably disposed of evidence. This interesting thing that a woman in the trial who's a friend of Lizzie's doesn't talk about when she's questioned initially by police, doesn't talk about in a later inquest or hearing, only talks about at the trial, which is 9 months after the event, where she says that she saw Lizzie tearing up a dress and burning it a couple of days after the murders.
That won't mean anything.
Yeah, well, how could that be connected?
I know.
Well, she says that, that was what they just
There's
did.
nothing wrong with murdering a dress. Yeah.
No, well, the interesting thing is there's no blood on Lizzie. No one really notices any blood on her.
Mm-hmm.
No one finds this. Well, there's one tiniest spot of blood on her dress, which could have been her own, right? Because we're not doing DNA and we're not doing blood testing.
Yeah.
But if you, particularly the dad, right, if you took a hatchet to his head that ferociously, there would be blood on you, and he's still bleeding at the time that people come in. It's that fresh. So we're suggesting she kills him. She takes this hatchet downstairs. She cleans it all up. She sets it all up. She goes back. He's still bleeding and lovely and fresh. And then she calls.
I mean,
Anyway,
apart from your song, did we know that she was the one that did it?
I'm going to get there.
Okay. I just feel like you just did, though.
No. Wait. I mean, we'll get there.
Okay.
So anyway, the other thing that shook me about this particular piece of evidence is that it wasn't brought into anything until the trial. So it would have been fine if it had happened within days of, like, she burns a dress and the friend goes off to the police straight away, goes, hey, she was burning a dress last night, Another policeman said he saw her carry a bucket around and wash something. But again, it's like, great, but he didn't stop her. He didn't go and get the bucket off her. He didn't see what it was. She might have had a period, for all we know.
In a bucket?
Swanny's confused by that.
I'm not confused.
Remember, they used rags and they would wash them out. Yes, it wasn't our time. It was old-fashioned times, ye oldie
That
worldy times.
milkshake wouldn't bring all the boys to the yard.
No.
A few flies after a few days. So anyway...
Oh.
Too far, Schmidty.
Oh, sorry. The rag thing is sort of annoys me, but the police did search her room, but not very well, and of course they were criticised for their defective detecting. They say not very well. I mean, it was probably a cursory thing. She might have had a blood-stained dress hanging in her wardrobe that was hidden by other dresses, and they didn't really look. Don't know. At first, the police thought that the crime was likely perpetrated by a male, probably a foreigner. And this
Probably a foreigner.
Jeepers.
Yeah, at this period of time, there were a couple of changes to statutes where they had more immigration coming in from other places.
That's a leap, though, isn't it? That it's a foreigner?
Well, there was an influx then of workers from various places, and there was an inherent racism, basically.
So that's what it sounds
in the
like.
society, yeah.
Yes.
That's what I'm calling out.
Well, it is interesting because a lot of the police are actually Irish, and everyone hated the Irish too. So it's sort of
Not
these layers
nowadays.
of racism going on. Oh, no, they're lovely. This inherent layers of racism going on in this particular society of Fall River. And I don't really talk too much about that, but it's definitely there.
Like a racism lasagna.
It is a bit,
I think it relates to like the sort of, Boston is now known as being an Irish
Yeah.
enclave, but there had to be a point where that became so, and I think it coincides with this. And I think Schmidty's right. It's sort of, they were considered, certainly by someone of her standing.
Oh, she was
they're the
posh,
interlopers. They're the new
that's right.
dirty foreigners,
they
whatever
weren't
it
even
is.
New
and it
money.
was
They were
Irish.
new filth.
Correct. Yeah.
And she, not just the Irish, all of them, but
Yeah.
she wasn't, like Maggie was a maid, the
Yeah.
Irish maid.
Yeah.
There was very much a class system happening.
She needs to
And
wake up.
Andrew's parents, or Andrew's line,
Yeah.
at one point had owned most of Fall River.
All right.
So they had been they were kind of landed gentry.
Yeah.
Without being landed gentry, and which was partly why it was, well, because they were not in the English system, right? But it was partly why the frustration, I think, of the girls, because they had had this standing, they were wealthy, and yet he didn't spend any money.
And
Sounds
some
like ye
freaking
olde
leprechaun
wasps.
came in and murdered their dad and
White
stepmother.
Anglo-Saxon Protestant.
Well, not a leprechaun, as it turns out.
To be sure.
They actually thought for a short time it was a Portuguese foreigner, and they
Foreigner.
some Portuguese guy who they decided had done it. I don't know why.
Because he was Portuguese.
Also,
Makes
probably.
sense.
And there were quite a few, by the sound of it, Portuguese in the area at the time.
Because he looked different.
Whomever it was, they decided no, he couldn't have done it, so they let him go or didn't worry about it. And as the doors and windows were locked and only the kitchen door was open and Bridget and Lizzie were home, the authorities pretty much decided Lizzie was most likely the murderer. They didn't even seem to consider Bridget.
Oh.
Lizzie's older sister, Emma, was sent a telegram in Fairhaven.
Why wouldn't they have considered Bridget?
Who knows? I don't know.
I would have thought it would be the opposite way around.
Maybe because she didn't have as much to gain from it.
Yeah, but
It might have
maybe
been a
like a
motivation
disgruntled
thing.
maid and...
Oh, to be sure. I don't think Bridget gave any evidence that she was disgruntled, apart from maybe there is a theory
Oh, I
that she
was
cracked the
asleep.
shits about having to do the windows on a hot August day and
Ah.
decided to kill everyone for it. But it does seem a bit of a stretch.
Ouch. Yeah, more likely, if Lizzie did have her period, that's what she was carrying around in the bucket, she probably had a bad attitude to go with it and therefore came across as being more likely to be the murderer.
Do you know what's awful about the whole period
I think you've
thing?
cracked the case.
I'm
No,
pretty
no.
good like that, hey?
Yeah.
What else could it be?
Well, you see, Bridget at the time did explain that because the women all lived together, they'd all synced their periods.
Yeah, it makes sense.
And their periods had actually ended a day or two prior to
Oh.
the murders, because Bridget used to have to clean out all of the
Oh.
rags
Oh.
that were kept in a bucket in the privy. It was her job. So they washed them out, right? They didn't just leave them there.
Yeah,
They'd rinse them all out, but then it was her job to boil them up in the copper.
We're losing
re-
people.
and
We're losing
ready for
people.
next month. I cannot believe
Yeah, you're losing
You've just
hosts.
about lost me.
Yeah.
And I know you were doing that on purpose. She was like, oh, what other detail can I dig
Yeah.
into while I
Oh.
can watch both Clarky and Carla go green?
Can I have some of that mutton soup and get off
Yeah.
this podcast? That's too far.
Anyway, so So the point is the period theory is, a bit loose as well. Okay. No pun intended.
Whole
Okay.
new meaning of period drama.
Oh, well done. Yeah, no, that was a good one. Bring it back. Well done.
Well done, Tony.
Bada-ching.
Yeah,
Well
that was
done, Tony.
good. I didn't. That's brilliant, Tony. Oh.
Right, back to the
We
story.
digress.
So Lizzie's older sister Emma was sent a telegram in Fairhaven, which is, I think, about 25 k's away, 25 k's, telling her of the deaths and asking her to return. And again, the theory is that Emma snuck back, killed them, went back to Fairhaven. Like, it's just nonsense. So just 2 days after the murder, newspapers began reporting that there was evidence that Lizzie Borden might have had something to do with her parents' murders.
But did they say what it was, or did they just say that because that's the way the media rolls?
Correct. And it's interesting,
Yeah,
isn't it?
let's make
1892.
facts.
Yeah. So they determined Abby was killed first as her body was cold, whereas Andrew's was still warm and bleeding. Once they were onto her, as in Lizzie, they noticed that she changed her story quite frequently. Initially, she said she'd been outside in the barn loft, apparently looking for sinkers, lead sinkers, because she wanted to go fishing. Apparently she liked fishing, and fair play, fishing's fine.
Possible.
And she said she heard a weird noise before entering the house and then finding Andrew. Later, she said she didn't hear anything, and she just went inside not knowing there was anything wrong. Dum-de-dum-de-dum.
She's not doing herself any favours.
Yeah, also, we'll get on to why that could be happening, right? She said someone had come with a note requesting Abby go to them as they were sick, but she later said that Abby had come home. But when she discovered Andrew, she never called for Abby. She never seemed to even mention her until other people did arrive, right?
Yeah.
When she did finally ask someone to go and get Abby, Bridget and a neighbour went up the stairs. So, when you walk up a Victorian type house, you walk up the stairs and you hit the landing, and at some point you can actually see your head becomes level with the floor, the next floor.
Yeah.
They were able to see into the guest bedroom still on the stairs, and they could see Abby's body on the floor in the guest bedroom from the stairs.
Yeah.
Now, it was a big hoo-ha because, remember, Bridget said she thought she'd heard Lizzie on the stairs at the top of the stairs when Andrew was coming home. So they've worked out, they think that Abby died somewhere between 8:30 and 9 a.m.
Yeah.
She'd been dead for about an hour and a half before Andrew was killed. We know she'd been dead for a while. Her body had gone cold.
Right.
The suggestion is that Lizzie would have seen Abby if she was upstairs walking down the stairs. But then again, when you walk down a flight of stairs, I don't know about you, I look down to make sure I'm not going to fall down the stairs. I'm not turning my head to look into a bedroom to see under the bed to see where there's a dead body.
I think it's quite feasible that you wouldn't see that. I mean, I certainly wouldn't. Stuart more likely would, I reckon. You're a bit more observant than me.
So do I. And also, Bridget was upstairs having a lie down, remember? And she came downstairs to find Andrew, and she didn't find him. She didn't see Abby either.
I don't know that she was up there having a lie down. I think she was just,
What was she
it's
doing?
a bit hot. I don't know. She's a bit hot. She's a little
Quiet
bit
time?
restless. Yeah, having a
Do you
little bit of
think
quiet
she
time.
was
Shaking her milkshake?
what on earth?
Practicing?
Just
You're
because
not allowed to go and have a lie down if you're the maid. You don't go and
she's
have
not feeling well.
I don't think
She's
they
having a little
care.
rest.
It's still in the morning. Maybe she got to the afternoon. She had
She'd
jobs
worked
to do.
for them for 5 years by then, so she was fairly integrated into the family.
Yeah, so she felt quite comfortable going and having a
Yeah, quiet time.
shaking her milkshake.
Like Scott Peterson, Lizzie
I
didn't
did think that. Yes.
Lizzie didn't present in the way the police expected her to.
Yeah.
She was too calm and far too well poised. And you know why, boys? Because she was a lady after all.
for tea.
And probably in shock. If she didn't kill them, it's quite, well, even if she did kill them, it's quite feasible that she was in shock at the time of being questioned and a bit kind of, I don't know what's going on. There was a suggestion that Lizzie had been considering poisoning her parents or the family. She'd inquired about some cyanide some time before, saying it was to clean her furs, but there was no sign of poison in either victim's stomach. She didn't need to poison them when the mutton soup was already doing a good job. On the 6th of August, police conducted a more thorough search of the house, inspecting the sisters' clothing and confiscating the broken-handled hatchet head. That evening... yeah.
Say that 6 times fast.
No. That evening, a police officer and the mayor visited the Bordens, and Lizzie was informed that she was suspected in the murders.
So how long after the murders are we now, sorry?
2 days.
Okay.
So we've gone through a lengthy, careful investigation.
Well, careful, I think.
2 days. 2 days. So they rock up and they say, you're a suspect. There's a private inquest. Lizzie, who had been prescribed morphine to calm her nerves,
Morphine.
was
Jeepers.
noticed as behaving oddly. Now,
Responded without shock because she's
Morphine.
dosed up.
and she's off her head.
Yeah.
She's erratic, refusing to answer some questions and contradicting herself multiple times because she's confused because she's on morphine.
How long had she been on morphine? Since the murder?
Since the murders.
Yeah, right.
And she was given, she could take it repeatedly. And this is not a point in time where I've never had the green
Dream?
stick. I think, no. When you have a really bad, painful accident, they give you this green, they call it the green
And you
stick.
inhale
But I think
it,
it's
yeah.
morphine. It's morphine, isn't
I think
it?
so, yeah.
And I've never had it. But I've watched my niece and others who've had nasty, she dislocated and broke her ankle.
Ooh.
And they go from being in terrible pain to,
Yeah.
and this is a point in time where it's 1892, right? So who knows how much of
Yeah,
this she's
don't
having.
judge her for her reactions when she's on morphine.
Old mate Juan Martinez. Do you remember my mate?
He's a
from
foreigner.
Do you remember Jodi Arias as prosecutor?
Prosecutorial misconduct.
Prosecutorial misconduct
Oh.
from a couple of weeks
Yeah,
back.
do
That's
I ever?
right. This district attorney was just as aggressive and confrontational.
Yeah, right.
Apparently it must be a thing. Although I didn't have the pleasure of watching hours of his carry-on YouTube like I did with Juan Martinez. On the 11th of August, 1892, Lizzie was served a warrant of arrest and jailed. Like Jodi's case, the press were all over it, and whilst the inquest testimony was ruled inadmissible, of course they reported on it anyway in the papers as the case was national news. So I guess there's nothing new in the media prejudicing a case before it's heard.
It's funny, isn't it? That's a big thing.
1892,
Yeah.
though. It's not a new thing. Fox News is not a new thing.
At least we've learnt from it, hey.
Lizzie sits in jail for 9 months waiting trial, which by today's standards isn't too bad because, sometimes we've got them sitting there waiting for years. But I could imagine it was pretty horrendous. The trial took place in New Bedford starting on the 5th of June, 1893. Prosecuting attorneys were Hosea M. Knowlton and future United States Supreme Court Justice William H. Moody. Defending were Andrew V. Jennings, Melvin O. Adams, and former Massachusetts Governor George D. Robinson. As luck would have it, just 5 days before the trial started, another resident of Fall River was hacked to death in strikingly similar circumstances.
No, whilst Lizzie's in custody.
Correct. Bertha Manchester, who was found in her kitchen. Unsurprisingly, the media picked this up, and as Lizzie was still languishing in jail, she couldn't have done it, could she?
Nope.
Turns out, Jose Correo de Mello.
Yeah.
Turns out, Jose Correo de Mello, or Jose Carreras as Carla would have it, a Portuguese immigrant.
With
Was
a
later
very deep voice.
It was a tenor.
And he was a tenor. It wasn't that deep.
Oh.
Yeah.
With
It wasn't a bass or a baritone.
with a
It
very
was a
not
tenor.
deep voice.
Nessun dorma. Anyway.
Shut up, Swanny. You'll get me in trouble.
So anyway, he was later convicted of Manchester's murder in 1894, but apparently he wasn't in the vicinity of Fall River at the time of the Borden murders, so it
but
couldn't
he
have
was
been him.
Portuguese.
Yeah, but I couldn't find anything.
Tough.
Yeah, but he definitely did kill Bertha Manchester,
Okay,
right?
rightio.
There was
But he
much
wasn't
more
around
evidence.
Okay.
So
He had coins and stuff that he'd stolen from her purse
Okay,
that he tried to sell somewhere else.
when you say apparently he wasn't in Falls Creek at the time,
couldn't find any proof. There's nothing on it.
but there's
So I
nothing to
can't-
say wasn't
Correct.
there? Right.
There's nothing to say one way or t'other. But Yeah.
Excellent word.
Love it.
You're welcome. But he was a disgruntled worker who took out his revenge on poor old Bertha. I think she was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. There was this, Lizzie kept talking about some bloke who had come to the door and had a fight with his father about some business dealings. And that had happened a couple of times. And she didn't know, I mean, obviously this Bertha thing happened.
Did she
8.5
say he was
months later.
Portuguese or a foreigner?
She didn't remember. No, she didn't. Just a man. She didn't really describe him.
And when you say he was a disgruntled worker who killed Bertha, was there a connection there? Was Bertha wealthy?
No, she was just a housemaid. I mean, Bridget could have been killed. If the thing is, Bridget's upstairs, Lizzie's allegedly in the loft. If a Portuguese immigrant did come into the house and start killing everyone, both of those women could have been the Berthas in this story.
Yeah. No, I just wondered whether it was an elitist thing, kind of thing, where he went, "I'm a disgruntled worker and I'll kill the rich people," but no connection between Bertha.
No, it wasn't.
Right. Yeah.
No,
Gotcha.
No, and I think poor old Bertha was in the wrong place at the wrong time because he probably wanted to kill the bloke who ran the place.
Yeah.
So a prominent point of discussion in the trial, or at least the press coverage of it, was the hatchet head found in the basement, which was not convincingly demonstrated by the prosecution to be the murder weapon. It had absolutely nothing on it.
All kinds of people's blood on it.
It had no blood on it. Nothing.
Niente.
Prosecutors argued that the killer had removed the handle because it would have been covered in blood, but the handle was actually there and not covered in blood.
Yeah, right.
One officer testified that a hatchet handle was found near the hatchet head, but another officer contradicted this. Lizzie's movements prior to the murders was also a point of dispute during the trial. According to testimony, Bridget entered the second floor of the home at around 10:58 a.m. and left Lizzie and her father downstairs. Lizzie told several people that at this time she went into the barn and wasn't in the house for 20 minutes or possibly half an hour. Hyman Lubinsky testified for the defense.
Does he have a sister?
It was a period drama, after all.
Oh!
It's a period drama. Yeah.
I thought it was Misty Hyman's brother.
No, it's just Hyman Lubinsky.
Mr. Hyman Lubinsky, not Misty Hyman Lubinsky.
I like that, though. If I'm ever going to be a drag queen again, I think I'm going to have that as a name, Hyman Lubinsky. Anyway, he testified for the defense that he saw Lizzie Borden, this is important, leaving the barn at 11:03 a.m. It's very precise.
Jesus.
And Charles Gardner confirmed the time. At 11:10 a.m., Lizzie called Sullivan downstairs, told her Andrew had been murdered and ordered her not to enter the room. Instead, Borden said, "Go get the doctor." So she says, "Dad's been murdered, go get a doctor." She didn't say, "Come in here and help me with him." So 2 people witnessed her in the barn where she said she was 10 minutes prior to this, to her calling the maid.
And was that because she was going to get the hatchet?
No, the hatchet was in the basement downstairs,
basement.
not in the
found
loft.
in the
She was in the
basement,
barn.
but-
Yeah, but she was in the barn. But you think about it, right? She comes in, she kills her father, she runs downstairs, she cleans all that blood up, and she calls the maid in within a 10-minute period. It just seems unlikely.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I guess all I'm saying is that evidence in itself doesn't exonerate her.
here's something gross. Get ready for it. Both victims' heads had been removed during autopsy, and the skulls were admitted as evidence during the trial and presented on the 5th of June, 1893.
What?
Upon seeing them in the courtroom, Lizzie fainted. How macabre is that?
I know, right?
What? Yeah, that's bizarre.
Isn't it? However, the jury, after listening to hours of closing statements, I can't remember if it was the prosecution, I think it was, or the defence, but literally their closing statements went for 5 hours. They deliberated for only an hour and a half. And then, drum roll please, Lizzie Borden was acquitted of the murders.
Didn't see that coming.
When she left the courthouse, she told reporters she was the happiest woman in the world. You know, she's either the happiest woman in the world because she was innocent and she got off, or she was a murderer and she got off. Either way, now she's a rich murderer or a rich innocent person. And I feel like I'm the only person in the world who knew about Lizzie Borden but didn't know that she got acquitted. That's the bit that I found really interesting.
Did you think that song was factual?
Well, I didn't really know.
Based
Yes.
on some of it,
Like
yeah.
it's
And the second part of
lies
it talks
that-
about her hanging from the gallows or something like that. So I just assumed she'd been knocked off, had the death sentence.
who wrote that song?
I don't know. It's a kid's rhyme. I don't know who.
The skipping song.
Tony calls it a skipping
I reckon
song.
it was written by
The Skipping
I reckon it
Girl
was written
in
by
Victoria
Sky
Street.
News.
Yeah. Fox News. Yeah. That's just my Kiwi accent. That's why it sounds wrong.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The only thing I knew about Lizzie Borden prior to this was that she took an axe, gave her mother 40 whacks. When she saw what she had done, she gave her father 41. And as you said, factually incorrect. As you'd expect, there's lots of theories. I talked about a couple of them. That the Portuguese chap, Jose Carrera, who killed Bertha, did it. Uncle John did it. There are a few suspect things about his alibi. Apparently, he gave this exceptionally detailed alibi about where he was when Andrew was murdered, and also claimed to be really close to his nieces, but he never visited them again after this.
Oh.
And he'd only really been showing up to Andrew to talk about business. There's a theory that Uncle John and Lizzie conspired together. The thing with Uncle John is he didn't benefit at all from any of this. He got no money out of it. He got nothing, right? So I'm not really convinced Uncle John. And don't worry, when I started researching this a while back, I did start to go down the rabbit hole of John, whatever his Vinimer or whatever his funny middle name is.
Uncle John.
Nothing to see there, Uncle John. That Emma, the older sister, snuck back from out of town to do it and then snuck back to the other place and then waited for a telegram to say, oh, look, your parents are dead. And that Lizzie was a Leslie and she and Bridget were scissor sisters was another theory.
Oh, yeah.
And how would that affect things? Or is that just a theory that has nothing to do with the murder?
No, because they ganged up together. So some of Bridget's testimony and some of Lizzie's testimony at times either contradict each other or support each other.
And, of course, that's what lizards do, gang up and kill people.
Well, there's no evidence that Bridget was a lesbian because Bridget, well, she might have been. She might have been in that young experimental phase that a lot of women go through.
It's another Sky News theory,
or she could have been fluid. She could have been pansexual.
No fact.
She does end up married to someone else later on.
No fact.
So a man later on.
No fact that they're lesbians. No fact that they both killed them.
No fact at all.
Move
That's
on,
right.
Peter Credlin.
It's another one where the accused said that they were innocent, and had the police done a better job of investigating all options, or at least getting the burden of proof against the accused with no fingerprints, no blood, no nothing, maybe Lizzie would have been shown to have committed this heinous and brutal crime. But the way it went down, the jury couldn't have found her guilty beyond reasonable doubt because there just wasn't enough evidence.
And there was lots of reasonable doubt.
There was tons of reasonable doubt. Yeah. The theory about Uncle John is that he had, for whatever reason, he had a falling out or something with Abby.
Yeah.
He kills her in the top bedroom, in the guest room. She's facing her killer when she's attacked, and there's no defensive wounds, which suggests the killer's just smacked her one, right? And she's fallen. She's turned with the force of it, fallen face down, and then been beaten over the back of the head. And then the idea is he went downstairs and he killed Andrew, who was asleep on the couch, because he didn't want him to clean it up a bit. Like, I've just killed his wife, I better kill him too. Again, no fact, no theory. Like, it's a theory, right? It's nothing in it. Whilst the law didn't convict Lizzie Borden, society sure did.
Oh, here we go.
She was shunned by the upper echelons of Fall River. And although she changed her name to Lizbeth, which probably was not quite enough to throw everyone off the scent.
That's genius. Get off the morphine, Lizzie. I think she's got a morphine addiction by now.
She might have, or laudanum.
Them.
She couldn't shake the infamy, strangely. It didn't help also that she stayed in Fall River. She and Emma moved to a house in the Hill neighbourhood, and Fall River wasn't that massive. And by all accounts, it was a pretty good mansion with lots of staff, and they lived like wealthy women, which is what they'd always kind of wanted to do with their dad's cash. And they were, so that's fair enough. But after Lizbeth threw a party for an actress friend, nudge,
there you go,
and the performance troupe, and you know I love a good cast party, and that happened not long after Lizbeth got picked up for shoplifting, which apparently she'd been doing
career criminal
all the time. And Andrew had got it all under the carpeted.
Benefited from it.
Under the carpeted. That's another one
is
for
that,
you.
Is that de-escalation when you go from murder to shoplifting?
If she did murder them, yeah. Yes, it would be, I suppose. Anyway, that's when Emma moved away, and she never saw Lizbeth again.
Oh.
Lizbeth lived in Fall River until her death in 1927.
Oh.
She died of pneumonia after having her gallbladder removed. She had some complications after that. And Emma, her older sister, rather oddly, died just 9 days later.
Folie à deux?
Folie à dead.
Folie à
Folie à
dead.
mort.
Folie
Folie à mort.
à deux mort.
And that is the story of the Borden murders.
Wow.
Lizzie, what do you make of that?
Okay, so my first question, who do you reckon did it?
I think Lizzie did it.
Do you?
Sometimes I do.
You sound very confused on this one. I mean, I think you're.
It is confusing. I'm like the jury, right? I couldn't have convicted her beyond reasonable doubt.
Is it because you learnt the song so early that you just can't get past it?
Yes. My whole life,
nutshell.
whenever I heard about Lizzie Borden when I was relatively young, and I was like, ooh, spooky. It must have been something on TV. And I was like, oh, that's really scary. That's really terrible. Murder, bad. And then I just assumed everyone talks about her as the girl who killed her parents.
Yeah.
So when people talk about people who've beyond
Easily.
any shadow of a doubt killed someone, you've got to assume that they went to jail or, that they felt the power of the law. That's why I was so shocked when she was acquitted.
Were you more shocked by
But I
that
can't
or more
understand
shocked
why
when you
now.
found out that Santa Claus wasn't real?
I was much more shocked to find out that Lizzie Borden was acquitted. I feel
Good
like the
answer.
Santa Claus
Yeah,
thing was...
You saw it coming?
I did, yeah. I think, it was... Just there were a few clues.
And you're the youngest in your family, so...
Yeah.
There were clues. But on this thing, there were none. It was shocking.
It's fascinating, isn't it, that song came to be, even though she's innocent.
This is the thing about the story being bigger than the reality.
Yeah.
She may have been innocent, she may not have, but she was acquitted because there wasn't sufficient evidence.
Yeah.
There just wasn't.
But also the fact that society convicted her to the point where at some point a song was...
They cut her.
Yeah, but to have a song about someone who's innocent shows that people believed she was guilty.
Oh, everyone thought she was guilty.
Yeah.
The kids, it was like the witch on the street things. The kids used to taunt her. Everyone stared at her. She'd go around in her lovely carriage and be wealthy, and then eventually I think she kind of isolated. She withdrew into the house.
Was it
and
like
stayed away from
Cersei
other
in
people.
Game of Thrones when she had to do the Walk of Shame every time Lizzie went out to town?
Well, she wasn't nude.
Did people throw things at her, though?
I didn't read that, but she certainly was ostracised.
Okay.
So, Swanny, what do you think?
I'm trying to find... I found a movie called
Was
Lizzie...
that with Christina Ricci and
Elizabeth
someone
Montgomery.
else?
Hang on, where did it go?
Elizabeth Montgomery.
I thought it's hang on, 2018.
Sorry, are you trying to look up a
that's
movie to
much
tell you
newer.
whether or
No,
not Lizzie
no.
Borden did?
Yeah.
No,
It's called
no.
How
I'll
to
tell you
Use a
what.
Hatchet?
No, what I was doing because I was absolutely not. It was trying to. I think it's a lesbian drama. As opposed to, is there something like that?
Yeah,
It's saying that.
modern times there's been a definite lean into the lesbian
Yes. So
angle.
to give you an idea who played Lizzie Borden, it's Chloe Savini and Kristen Stewart from
right.
Twilight or whatever.
Yes,
She's
yes,
Bridget.
yes,
So
yes.
Bridget was the maid, right?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
so it says.
The hot Irish maid of Kristen
Yeah,
Stewart played her.
Lizzie finds a
Kristen
kindred
Stewart.
spirit in the live-in maid Bridget, and a friendship soon blossoms into a secret romance. But tension mounts in the Borden household, leading to a violent breaking point. Well, there you go. And someone's written, how accurate is the movie?
Not at all.
Not at all, no.
And
As accurate as the
Well,
song.
who knows? I mean, honestly, who knows what happened behind closed doors? The fact that Bridget went on to marry a man it's neither here nor there. Like lots of lesbians married men in a period of time when they had no other choice and society frowned on it. Lots of gay men married women.
Exactly.
That's just what happened. Everyone hid their proclivities because it wasn't accepted societally. So that's neither here nor there in my mind. The only thing that makes me think that Lizzie... Well, I don't know that she was a lesbian just because she liked an actress and she hung out with this actress. She could have just been lonely and wanted to have some fun.
God forbid
And I
she'd have
don't
a
mean
friend
sexual.
of the same.
Oh, my God. I think Tony
gender.
was just saying this. There was a movie that was also done in
With
1975.
Elizabeth Montgomery.
Yes.
From Bewitched.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. That's what you were saying.
And that was a serious.
Yes,
movie.
that sounds like it reflects. It's
Yeah,
got
right.
less
And
lesbian
it shocked
sex-
everybody because
lesbonic.
everybody knew about
From the Isle
everybody
of
knew about
Lesbos.
Bewitched, and she actually does a nude scene
Stayed
in
with you,
that.
has it, Tony?
And
Yeah.
and it was like, oh my God. like, you
Oh my
know.
God, I was in love with bloody Samantha.
I've never seen a woman so stitched up to the collar as Lizzie Borden. I can't imagine that woman nude. I don't want
Nude.
to either. Well, he said nude, and that's why I'm carrying
Nude.
on with it. Yeah.
Nude.
I've got a
You probably
question
can't
for
hear
you.
him because he
It's terribly
doesn't.
posh.
What about the sister? What about Emma?
Do you think the sister could have done it? She's interestingly placed. Strangely, they've just got on holiday.
She's just
She's
always
come back
outside.
a few days, and then she's just pissed off to Fairhaven. It is weird that she's just disappeared. No one ever looked at her. No
What about
idea.
the Portuguese tart, though? Like, he killed
I
someone
reckon
in
the
a similar
Portuguese immigrant
way.
did it. I actually probably think, if not him, another one did. I reckon.
This is a whodunit, isn't it? You tricked me at the start, damn you.
Well, I started off by being quite comfortable that I was like, yeah, well, everyone thinks Lizzie did it. But
and then you realise
I
that
think
neither
it's-
Clarky or I knew who they were.
Lizzie,
Who
that's
she was.
right.
It's like, well,
yeah.
there's
I
a
don't know
little
if
bit
it's
of
messing
Yeah,
up.
exactly. Yeah. No, it was like all bets are off now. But I think it's quite feasible that a complete random stranger came in and killed them.
I'd feel more comfortable with one person doing the 3 killings than them being coincidental.
I don't think they're coincidental. I think it's quite possible that he was there. As I said, I wonder whether or not there's a bit of, we've put her in jail, we've had her it's been in the press for 9 months. If it turns out we were wrong at this point and it was a Portuguese bloke, how stupid do we look even more than we are now?
Yeah, of course.
And so I wonder whether or not there was a bit of, look, do him for that, but we'll just let the other 2 pass.
Yeah.
Oh, no, he wasn't there. And that's why I say I didn't spend a lot of time, but I did try to see his movements. I found out what happened to him after.
What happened to him after? He went into a lesbian movie and he...
No, he was extradited from the country and he never came back.
He was renamed Elizabeth Montgomery.
And his
No, he
father
changed
died
his
of a broken
name
heart.
to Elizabeth.
That's right.
Something about his father dying of a broken heart or
Oh.
pneumonia, one or the other.
Or a hatchet wound. I always get
Or
those
an
2
actual
mixed
illness.
up.
No, in disgrace of his son's
Oh.
behaviour.
Ah.
Yeah. So I did follow that down a little bit, but there was nothing prior. There was nothing about where he had been. You tell me that he's not in that area. Where was he then? Couldn't find it anywhere.
So I must say, with all respect to the way you reported it, if you've given us all of the facts, I'm pleased she got off because I don't think there's anything that says that.
So am I, actually.
Yeah,
I don't
and
think she did
despite the media,
Well, I don't know.
crap,
I just don't think they proved it. Yeah. Mm.
because I think that doesn't sound like there was enough fact to point towards anyone doing it. And I
No.
appreciate that they're dead and so someone did it, but it almost feels like it should be a cold case, not a solved case. Because,
And it is.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah.
It is a cold case because she was acquitted. It was never solved.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
But society and everyone else decided that she was a killer, thus the rhyme and everything else.
It's interesting too how easy it is to find a suspect and take them to court with very limited information. I mean, we're talking 1892, so probably even easier then. But yeah, it's a fascinating thing. I guess the more of this stuff we do, the more I go, wow, when we started,
That even
I
gets
didn't
caught.
think, maybe naively, I didn't think it would be, you just take someone because you can't really find anyone else. But it almost feels like that's the way it works, that we don't really find anyone, but they're close enough.
It's all about clearance rate, my friend.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But even in a court system, there's the like Law and Order, they talk about the police and the courts. The courts kind of fall for it too.
Yeah, and I think just to be balanced or just give all sides of it, there's a theory that there's a theory that she was acquitted because she was a lady.
Yeah.
And no one could imagine the person from her background, circumstance, Christian background, Protestant, not just wealthy, but privileged, all the rest of it, doing something so incredibly brutal and
Wow.
heinous as this crime. No. And it was a full male jury, of course.
Yeah.
And so it sort of became this idea of she was acquitted because they couldn't imagine that she did it.
Yeah.
But in reality, if you look at it from a legal perspective and look at what evidence was provided, there just wasn't enough evidence. So I don't think it was this overlay of inherent misogyny or whatever you want to call it. I actually just think the prosecution just didn't bring enough to bear
Inherent
on it.
misogyny, jeepers. Wow.
Well, I mean, misogyny can play to your advantage and your disadvantage, right?
Yes.
And in her case, the misogyny saying, "Oh, a little frail little thing like that, she couldn't possibly have killed her parents," works to her advantage had she done it. Whereas we've got plenty of examples of how misogyny works against you.
What's the female version of misogyny?
It's not possible because women couldn't possibly hate men.
Or couldn't possibly do something that made men act a certain way.
No, that's right. We're not capable of it because we're just little
ladies.
Yeah.
No,
and
just
that
haven't
you
got a
just
label
proved
for it.
my
Yeah,
point.
You've all got it.
that the language doesn't even give a label to it because it's so impossible because men can't imagine it even being a thing.
Or women are very comfortable being in that position.
Oh no, I've heard feminists rail about the lack of language. It's a bit like what's a sex addict in a man's world, right? It's just a sex addict, is it? What do we call a man who's just like can't stop shagging around?
Hornbag?
Oh.
Not an nymphomaniac. There's a
Captain
specific word for females. Nymphomaniac. There is not the equivalent around men in the language. It's just the same
But
thing,
you
right?
take it as a criticism.
Anyway.
Oh, he's really trying to compliment you, Schmidty, when he's calling you the nymphomaniac. It's a pet name for you, darling.
Thank you. I didn't want to go down the kind of about misogyny and sexist path. I just think it's not enough evidence. Well, because a lot of people would say she left that bit out, and that's a big.
No, but I would say
I wouldn't worry. I'd worry about the word frigid rather than nymphomaniac.
Yeah, you've never been a fan of frigid, have you, Tony?
No, it's kind of like that. That's insulting.
Yeah, I agree.
That says she said no to me, right? Right, and
she's the problem,
right?
Yeah,
nymphomaniac's not a problem. It's a lucky streak.
Jeepers. I think the label isn't complimentary. I think juror prejudice is common through, and it's irrelevant in that regard, right? Because
it's pretty hard to avoid, though, isn't it?
No, but what I'm saying is that so what? The jury let her off, and you can try to find reasons for that, but where's the evidence? And so, put all of that shit aside. There is nothing.
You wouldn't have won it anyway,
Yeah.
And it doesn't appear that anyone bothered to appeal it either, or try again.
But again, I like all of that. It almost feels like, despite the media coverage and the fact that people may have wanted her to be guilty, the system worked.
So I think, for me, I'm happy the way things turned out. I think the police could have done a slightly better job, but who cares, really? Like, it's 100 and something years ago. Swanny?
Look, I think I'm comfortable as well. Perhaps if there's one thing we could do, perhaps we could edit the little sing-along to make it more accurate. So, maybe
have you been working on that?
Yeah.
I hope you've been working on that. Yeah.
What do I haven't been working on it? I thought I should have been working on it. I don't even know the original. But, maybe it's sort of like, you've heard the song of Lizzie Borden, went to the barn to cure her boredom. Whilst in the barn, someone crept into the house while the maids slept. Upstairs 17 times they buried the hatchet. Downstairs they couldn't quite match it. Lizzie came in from the barn, saw the mess and said, "Oh, darn." Once there, the police called for calm, whilst the media went and told a big yarn. Poor Lizzie Borden, immortalised in song, when really she did nothing wrong.
All right, then. So we're all okay with her being acquitted, and police should do better.
And the media too. Who knew Sky News were around in 1892?
Exactly. Sky News and Fox News. All right, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And as we say every week, miss you already.
Miss you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Trial by Wine. You can contact us at trialbywine@gmail.com. Please rate, review and subscribe to Trial by Wine on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. If you'd like to support us, you can become a patron at www.patreon.com, Trial by Wine, or visit our website www.trialbywine.com to donate to us. Your support will help us cover many more cases and apply wacky sentences. We really appreciate you listening and hope you tell everyone about us. Our cover art is by John Christo and music is by Beauchamp from pixabay.com.